All right, Dead Leg, let's make some predictions that I'm sure will come back and bite us. Let's start with this one. Which player selected outside of the lottery tonight is going to exceed all expectations?
Yeah, if you thought I was limiting this to one player, you are sadly mistaken. All right. I will say, well, expectations are all relative here. I'll say Andre Jackson Jr. is my second round pick, who I like the most to exceed expectations. I think he turns into a top 20 NBA player from this year's draft class. He is my most, he's who I pick most. I will say this, in talking to some NBA folks in the lead up to this, the player who received the most votes for this kind of question, like which second rounder do you actually think has the most value to, we look up and he's a top 25 guy. Seth Lundy out of Penn State. He went 46. So that's from the NBA side. So Andre Jackson Jr. And then outside of the lottery, Jaime Jaquez Jr. I could not love the pick more. This feels universal, wonderful cultural fit. Miami was highly connected to Jaquez heading into the draft. He fell there. They loved him. I think that he's got a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful chance. And then I'll give you one more, and it feels like a layup, but Nick Smith Jr. at one point was the number one player in the 2022 class, and he goes from that all the way down to 27. But how about this? He's going to Charlotte. And you know what that means? He's playing with Brandon Miller. And do you know what that means? That means he's playing with the guy that he played grassroots basketball with. So those two get to get reunited. I do like Nick Smith Jr.'s potential to well outplay his draft spot. I think that was a very great value pick by the Hornets.
I agree. At the bottom of the first round, why not take a big swing on a guy who, like you said, was literally ranked number one in his high school class? It does feel a little bit like, but this was at the bottom of the first round, not in the top 10. The Grizzlies a couple of years ago used a top 10 pick on Zaire Williams, even though he was terrible at Stanford. Terrible. And the explanation was, we're looking for a wing with size who can shoot. We wanted Josh Giddey. We wanted Franz Wagner. They both got taken. So next on our list was Zaire Williams, and we are not even going to pay attention to anything he did at Stanford. We're just going to chalk it up to a weird COVID year. Didn't go well. We're focused on the high school tape. The high school tape is encouraging. Jury's still out on whether that's going to work or not. Right now, I would personally bet against it. The second year was not encouraging. He went backwards instead of forwards. But that was the idea there. And it seems like at some point in this draft, if you're Charlotte, you go, hey, the guy who was ranked number one in the entire country a year ago is available. And, yeah, he was not good at Arkansas, but it's almost certainly injury related. And then, he's trying to fit in after missing so much time. It's complicated. But if we could just forget about all that and focus on, here's a combo guard with good positional size who was ranked number one in his class, and he's available down here. We've already got Brandon Miller. Let's take a swing. They did it. And, they also, in the second round, got Amari Bailey. So Charlotte just added 3 top 15 recruits from the class of 2022. Nick Smith was number one. This is according to 24/7 Sports. Amari Bailey was number 10. And Brandon Miller was actually the lowest ranked of all of them at number 14. So that's 3 top 15 prospects, class of 22. Charlotte, I thought, had a encouraging night. As for me, players outside of the lottery that I think are going to live up to expectations, Jalen Hood-Schifino. I discovered him. The Team Thad gym, 2 summers ago. And anybody listening to this podcast knows I've always been a believer. He ends up going 17th to the Lakers. I believe you'll look up and he'll be playing meaningful minutes in the playoffs next season. And that's not something all rookies do, even rookies drafted in the top 20. But I'm a believer in Jalen Hood-Schifino. I thought he was a top 10 prospect in this class. I know I'm in the minority. I recognize that. But I'm a believer in him. He's combo guard, got good positional size. He is good in pick and rolls. He's not a great athlete. He's not a proven shooter, but I think he'll shoot it well enough. I liked what the Lakers did there. Let's go to the other side of it. Which player who went in the lottery will not live up to expectations?
So there will be multiple players that this is the case with. So just brace yourself now. give you a couple names before I give you the one that I think is above all. Bilal Coulibaly is interesting. He could live up to it. He could exceed it. His stock was the biggest riser in the entire draft. Heading in, the folks I talked to thought his ceiling was 9 to Utah, and even that was going to be a big swing. No, he winds up going 7. So boomer bust potential there. I do like Jet Howard long-term. I did not like where he was selected in the context of the draft as it played out. I would have taken at least another 4 or 5 players before I consider Jet Howard. I do wonder if he is set up to succeed in Orlando. I love the Anthony Black pick. We'll see on that. And I think the other one in the lottery, Amen and Alsar Thompson, they're from Overtime Elite, and that level of competition doesn't even compare to G League Unite, international play, college hoops. There will be something of a an arbitration ruling on OTE overall when it got 2 players drafted in the top 5. That's a huge advertisement for the validity of that league, but we got to see how they play at the next level. My answer to your question, GP, is Taylor Hendricks, who went 9 to Utah. I actually didn't love Utah's first round. They were my loser on HQ. Hendricks at 9. I'll focus on him, but they also took Keontae George at Baylor at 16, and then they went with Sensabaugh at 28. I'm not convinced that franchise significantly upgraded its situation with those 3 picks. I think you could find drawbacks to all of them. Hendricks is someone that has a high ceiling, but also a low floor. I'm not all the way in on him. I didn't grade him as a top 15 prospect in that draft. So among lottery picks, he would be my most likely projection to not live up to expectations. Though I do wonder also with Jarris Walker, he's not that far behind. What about you?
Well, first on Jet Howard, I also discovered him. I don't know if I've ever talked about it, but I actually told Juwan Howard about Jet. Like, hey, there's a 6'8" shooter you need to take a look at. And, I don't know where it went from there, but he did end up playing at Michigan. You can go back a year, literally a year. When
I know,
but I got to say it one more time after he just went 11th in the draft.
How about this? Hold on. Before you say this, Adi, our director of editorial at .com, Adi Joseph, he happened to be in the studio tonight. And when this happened, he called this moment happening on the podcast. He said, Gary Parrish is going to bring up that he called it years ago. Jet Howard would be a lottery pick. Take your victory lap, buddy.
He was ranked in the outside of the 40s in his high school class. Nobody even had him as a first-round pick. I had to do a projected lottery for the 2023 NBA draft in June of 2022 on the night of the 22 draft, and I put Jet Howard in the lottery. People called me foolish. People questioned my sanity. But now look, there are 2 guys that I was heavy on way before anybody else. Jet Howard, Jalen Hood-Schifino. And they both went in the top 20. I feel like a Uso right now.
G.G. Jackson, too.
I feel like a Uso right now. Got my one up. I never said that about G.G. Jackson. I never said anything about G.G. Jackson. Put your ones up. We the ones. Me and Jet Howard and Jalen Hood-Schifino. By the way, Orlando, I don't know. Like, and we should say this. You ready for this? As I'm celebrating,
all right.
I have no idea. Okay. I thought Franz Wagner was a fraud. He's awesome. Okay. I thought Marvin Bagley would be incredible. He stinks. When you start speaking in absolutes about these guys, you're going to end up looking stupid. I remember Phoenix took Cam Johnson with the top 10 pick. What are they doing? How stupid. Even I was like, why you get Cam Johnson at 20? Why are you taking him at 10? Looks like a good pick with the benefit of hindsight. So who knows? But if Orlando can hit on these, if Anthony Black is everything you think he is, and Jet Howard is everything I think he is, and then you got a big point guard, a big 2, and then Paulo and Franz Wagner, I mean, that's starting to look like one of the best young cores in the world if these guys hit. You need Anthony Black and Jett Howard to hit, but if they do, and Orlando, by the way, has been they draft in a lottery my entire life, and they never they rarely hit, but they have hit on 2 recently in Paolo and Franz, and if they can hit on these 2, I mean, dude, they're just big all the way around, all the way around.
All right, so who are you going to crap on right now? Who's your lottery pick that's going to suck?
You know what? Okay, so I don't have any idea, but I'll say a name, and then I'll tell you why this is the person I point to. You've already mentioned him, Bilal Coulibaly. He played with Victor Wembanyama in France, and by all accounts, had an incredible postseason. But you know what this feels like to me? A little bit apples to oranges, I get it. But when a guy's a borderline first-round pick, and then he has an awesome NCAA tournament. And then it's now he's a top 10 pick. And you ignore the body of work and you focus on these 3 weeks and you go, oh, that guy's a top 10 pick now. And then you make a mistake. There was somebody at Syracuse a few years ago that this happened to. He had an awesome tournament. The name escapes me right now. Somebody will put it in the chat, I'm sure. Awesome tournament.
Johnson? Wesley Johnson went high, right?
No, it was different than that.
Okay.
But somebody will put it in the chat. Syracuse player, awesome tournament, goes really high, and I don't think it worked out. So this feels like that to me. Nobody had Coulibaly in the lottery a month ago. Nobody. I look at these things. Yeah. Nobody. And then he played well over a several week span, and now he's the 7th pick in the draft. He might.
Where is he?
We might look up and go, you know what? He should have been the 3rd pick in the draft. I don't know. But that is the only reason I mention him as an answer to this question is because nobody thought about him this way at all. Nobody, as far as I know. And then he played well in the postseason, and there's really not much else to point to. Somebody's saying Carmelo Anthony. No, it was not Carmelo Anthony. It was a guard with size. It was a good size guard.
Tyler Ennis.
No, I don't think it was Tyler Ennis. Somebody say the name. I don't want to look it up. I want somebody to just tell me.
I would look it up, but I'm terrified that my Wi-Fi will drop out entirely if I do that.
But that's what this feels like to me. You didn't think of him this way, and then you watched him play for 3 weeks, and you fell in love because he played well for 3 weeks, and now you just took him with the 7th pick in the draft. Again, he might live up to those expectations, but I'm
Johnny
always
Flynn? Johnny Flynn.
No, it was not Johnny Flynn, who was drafted before Steph Curry. It's more recently than Johnny Flynn. Now I'm gonna
maybe it's not Syracuse. I don't know.
Yeah,